Hey guys, welcome back to the Girlfriends and Goals podcast. This is Samaria, and I'm joined by my best friend and co host.
Miosha.
And we are reviewing Love is Blind season 7, episodes 10 and 11.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the ones before the wedding. So if you watch the show, if you have comments to make, please make sure that you are subscribed to our channel. Give this video a thumbs up and meet us in the comments below because we love to read your thoughts and agreements and disagreements. We welcome it all. All right, so let's kick it off with episode 10 and
Mm-hmm.
starting with Hannah and Nick with this ugly photo shoot.
One thing she's going to do is remind this man of his height. The boots they weren't even necessary. I didn't understand it.
Okay, I'm glad they were black and white pictures because I was like, what is the color scheme? You know, us melanated folk love a good color scheme or something. It just was not translating well to me. But when it was black and white, I said, okay, I guess that's fine.
Yeah,
But
she's always looking for a way to bust him.
yeah, so I guess these were engagement photos. Uh,
Yeah.
I said one thing Love is Blind is going to do is showcase those gold cups everywhere. Gold cups in every scene. Like, we get it, okay?
Yeah.
You guys have a cup line.
Then they do that indoor zip line, which looks fun. But as with all their outings, they quickly turn to where, they sit down after, which she has to remind him again, I did it better than you. I was
Yeah,
more graceful than you.
what is that about? Like, why does she always feel the need to compete with him? Like, I've seen that with sometimes men wanting to compete with women. Like, you know, if a woman is a high performer,
Hmm.
where you know she is high earning, where they feel like they have to one up. Hannah's case is bizarre. Like, it's almost like she's a bully at this point. Like, we get it. You have more responsibilities. You've done this longer on your own than he has. Of course, you would be better. I would hope you would be better at taking care of adult responsibilities and doing things better than him if you've been doing this for what, over 10 years and he just started. I don't know. It's so weird that she's competitive with him.
Maybe I'm reaching, but I think the way that she calls out his ego and confidence, I think there's some self esteem stuff going on with her too. And I
Absolutely.
think this is how it shows itself where I don't know if she was bullied as a child, or I know she talked briefly about her dynamic with her mom and maybe being hard on her about her weight. It's like she's taken on this role of being hard on people. And I'm wondering, was it because people were very hard on her and now she's successful and what she wants to be, that now she's in that position?
You know what vibe she gives me? The person who was bullied in high school or middle school, wherever, and then they're
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm gonna show them. And so they show up at the
Mm.
reunion, like, wanting people to see how, leveled up their life is.
Mm-hmm.
That's the vibe that she gives me. But I don't even know if her parents don't seem so hard on her, but of course that's just from what we've seen. Maybe there's some comparison, like on
Mm-hmm.
TV shows growing up, when the mom is like glamorous
Mm.
and beautiful and this, and the daughter feels like she has to live
Measure
up to
up.
that standard. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if you watched the show This Is Us or if anybody watching has watched the show This Is Us, but I know Kate's character, her mom was always like slim and well put together, and she just felt like she
Mm.
didn't measure up. So
She has the
maybe that's,
hot mom.
yeah, to the hot mom. But we are probably reading way too much into this, but those are the vibes at least that I get.
But it's for a reason, because I think if Nick were all the perfect things, what would be their dynamic? Like if Hannah got her ideal person, you couldn't bust their balls, so to speak,
She would
on
feel
all.
small.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. So I think she's maybe never been in the situation where she hasn't felt small, and so this is her
mm,
moment to feel
yeah,
big.
Yeah, she said in that conversation, because his response to all of the things she lists out as far as his lack of initiative and knowing things, he says, "Oh, I just want to be treated as an equal." She says, "I'll start treating you as one when you start contributing as an equal."
What a horrible thing to say to somebody. Like,
And what I don't understand is y'all are in a shared, paid for apartment.
you
He's
don't have a
still
job. He does.
he's still working his real estate business. So I'm so confused. What are you doing all day?
I guess because she's cleaning and taking out the dog, which is her dog, by the way. But yeah, she asks him, are you ready to be married? Are you ready to be married?" Girl, if you don't think he's ready to be married, don't marry him. It's really very simple.
And to be honest, he's been very honest about who he is. Look, this is
For
what it
sure.
is. I don't have much experience. I'm still
Hmm.
building. I need to mature. I need to grow up. He's owned a lot of it. If you don't
Yeah.
like it, move on.
I wrote down, whew, it's strict over here. You got it. Hannah is not playing around, but not even in a good way. I had to write down, does Hannah know that the point of having someone for the rest of your life is to enjoy being with that person? Because everything seems so combative with her. It feels like a punishment almost. Like, I know I'm hard on you and I say mean things. Yeah, stop right there. Don't be hard on me. Don't say mean things.
And to me, she has done a complete 180 from the pods. Who is this person? If we want to talk about frauds crashing out, this is, I mean, we would have thought it would have been Nick D
Yeah.
based off of what we saw in the pods, but this has been the complete opposite.
She
And
says that.
I'm no huge fan of his, but
And that's the thing. It's like these things are valid, but also what do you expect from someone who has led the life that he's led? Like, it's almost like he's 18 or he's in the position that she was in when she was 18, where he's just starting his adulthood journey. So, what can you expect from someone who is inexperienced in taking care of themselves? You
and
know?
she knew all that.
And she knew all that. It's like you were so caught up in competing with someone else and, oh, well, he's going to choose her, so now I need a backup plan, that you screwed yourself
Mhm.
essentially. But yeah, so he asked her if she's ready, and she said that, well, I'm mature and I'm ready. And I think she's assuming she's mature because she can handle responsibilities, but I think there are different levels to maturity. So she's not emotionally mature. She's not loving. She's not kind. Like, yeah, you can handle these day to day responsibilities, but that makes you an adult, but it doesn't necessarily make you ready to be a life partner to somebody else, you know? And she's
We,
lacking from what we've seen on this show, because I don't want to judge people by just edited clips, even though there are many. But it seems to be that she thinks because she can handle adult responsibility that she's ready to be a life partner, and that's not the case.
we haven't seen her loving, kind, nurturing
To
side.
anybody, no, to anybody, because not even
Yeah.
her brother was saying, yeah, that's just
Mm,
kind of how she is. So you don't have the emotional maturity for partnership.
not ready.
Okay. And well, they're just 26, so I guess she's only been doing it for 8 years, like the whole
Yeah.
adulting thing. But still, he's been doing it for zero. So all right. So before they go into the group meetup, because we'll get to that after we've talked about all the other couples, Nick talks about some people might need closure and that he would love to talk to someone named Katie, who we never saw until this episode.
Yeah, I was like, maybe I just don't remember her,
No.
but I'm like, oh, he had another number one connection? What?
Yeah, but apparently it was just for 3 days, so maybe they didn't think it was
Yeah.
worthwhile to show it. Um, yeah,
And
I can't wait to get
apparently,
to the group meetup.
and
But
apparently, her and Hannah and Katie are best friends.
best friends, like, baby, that's another area she's immature in. If you think Katie is your best friend after knowing her for 10 days in the pods,
And I know age is age, but this woman's 35 and you're 26.
She is not your best friend, and you are not hers. Like, be very for real. You liked her. She was someone who you enjoyed being around. Leave it at that.
Yeah.
Okay, Marissa and Ramses.
You know what? These two, I'm always spending the first few minutes of them talking trying to figure out
What's going on?
what is this about. I feel like we're jumping in mid conversation.
Always.
So I literally spent the first few minutes like, what is going on here?
Yeah, it takes a while to get to the point. So he's feeling a certain way because he feels like she shifted from what they agreed to in the pods, which is 3 to 5 years before they have kids, to well, we could just have it now, which I could understand if you thought you were solid on 3 to 5 years and someone's now saying, oh, I would be okay with it sooner. I
Yeah,
could understand.
and timing matters because we're talking a span of a week or two. Not, hey, we've already gotten married, things are going well, we're
Yes.
settled, things progress faster than we thought as far as getting things lined up. Okay,
Hmm.
I am feeling the urge to do it sooner. Wouldn't have an issue with that if some time had passed and certain things had lined up.
Yeah.
And I would expect that he would hopefully have an open enough mind to know, like, oh, we have ideas on things, but then once you're actually in it, it is okay to pivot if
Adjust.
necessary.
Yeah.
But this kind of leans to what I was saying about Marissa before, where it's like, I don't know if she really knows what she wants. I'm kind of confused by her in that after knowing this man for
Mm.
just a little bit of time, you're all of a sudden willing to have a child with him and you haven't even walked down the aisle.
Yeah. But you know what I think it is? Maybe this is the best experience that she's had, and so she's starting to feel so comfortable. You know how people get real comfortable real fast? That's the vibe that
Mhm.
she's giving me. So it's like maybe she's never felt this level of security, and
But
that's making her want to make the jump.
But is she though? Because this whole conversation around intimacy, I wrote, so all of this over her being on her period, where he's
Yeah.
feeling away because she doesn't feel like being touched. He's trying to make sure that this isn't going to be a long term thing as far as
Yeah.
intimacy. And
It's like calm down. It's I I'm experiencing things right now. Like you're a grown man. You've been married before. You should know that this is a part of the regularly scheduled program. Like
right. So
I think Ramses is, as someone who's been married before, I think when it comes to their relationship, he's always thinking, okay, well, what if this is a shift and then that leads to a divorce? Like I feel,
mm,
oh, every shift that Marissa makes, I think he's like, okay, is this the real her? And that's what I need to adapt to? Or was the pause the real her? And this is just temporary. So I do think he's overthinking. It's almost like Marissa said, I wish this wouldn't have gotten you in your head. He's in his head really heavy with their relationship. So something as small as, I just don't want you to touch me right now. Like I'm on get off of me. He
and
feels
you're
rejected.
back in
Yeah.
real life because he
Yeah.
referenced, being in Mexico, which is vacation.
Yeah.
So you can't really compare it. And it is such a short period of time. But I think also, even him going through the experience of having a big shift as far as his
Religion.
religious beliefs, he's probably always questioning, like, well, will there be any big shifts with her
Mm-hmm.
that I would need to anticipate? But you can't. It's always going
Can't
to be a
anticipate it.
risk.
And I kind of relate to him because I'm a big anticipator too.
Mhm.
um, but in this case, even towards the end, when he was hugging all on her, I was like, back up. I'm not even Marissa right now, but back up off me. Get back. But she allowed it. He just can't be feeling rejected every time hormones change because every week she's going to be a different person. depending
Yeah,
on where
and
she is
even
in
when
her cycle.
she was saying like, oh well, what about if I'm postpartum or other health issues are going on? His
Valid.
response of, well, yeah, that is something to think about. That's all you have to say?
Right. Get back to me when you've given it some thought, Ramses. But I think that was a very valid point that she brought up. I'm not gonna want you to. I'm not even gonna have the capacity to consider you feeling rejected. You really just have to kind of take it to the chin a little bit. And that's not to say she should do it in an excessive way or she shouldn't try to recover eventually, but she needs time and space, and he just has to get over it. He has to be understanding.
That's real life, especially as you age
Yeah.
and go through, all that life brings. It may not even be a physical thing. It could just be I'm going through a lot mentally and I'm just not there. It don't even have to always be something big.
Because
If
at the
you're deciding to partner for life,
yeah.
you have to realize that intimacy is going to have its ups and downs based off of whatever reasons. And we're not talking extremes like, oh, yeah, don't touch me for a year. More so being open to being flexible
Yeah.
and that because the newness of the relationship, like there's a lot of things that go into why you may experience things the way that you do in the beginning of a relationship
Yeah.
versus a lifetime together.
Yeah. And with this experiment coming off the high of the pods, going straight into vacation, yeah, you got a different version of her. You got like vacation me and day to day me. Like, I could be more go with the flow. Whereas in my day to day life, it's like, the flow got to go with me. I can't go with it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he
And
got
then
to
they,
relax a little bit. I think people on the internet were just looking for a reason to hate him after his stance with the military past. So they're making it sound like he's just the most awful person. I don't think that he's the
I,
most awful person. Like,
I don't think he's the most awful person, but I think Marissa may be getting a little bit hoodwinked, and it's not his fault. Yeah.
and it's
So
not
they
his fault. Say more.
no, no, I don't think it is. But I don't want to jump too far ahead.
Okay,
But yeah, so
fair.
they do have the birth control conversation again. With that, I will say I don't understand why they jumped in head first on the whole intimacy thing one way without having a big conversation of what this would look like. Y'all have been doing things unprotected. And I'm not saying that you can't shift or change your
Right.
mind, but that is really blowing me that two people in their 30s jump in head first and then, oh, now we're back at home. Now this conversation is happening. And she has her stance, he has his. I don't know. I think what's throwing things off is I think in his mind is like, well, things were fine this way before.
Why
So
is
why
there a
are you
shift
switching
now?
it now within a week? Like this is something we should
Yes.
have talked about before.
And oh, well, I'm okay with having kids. That like those two combined. Yeah.
Yeah, it just I don't understand how this is happening. I
I can understand how it's happening. I feel like they're giving us the most to talk about. I don't know. I could see it happening. I think things shift for Marissa more
quickly.
frequently than Rams would like. I'm
Like I
trying to
think
figure
he
out how to
went
say it.
in thinking like, okay, we'll maybe do it the natural method or way. She seems to be cool with it, and I don't know. It seems like a big deal, a big thing to not be on the same page with.
I
They
agree.
and then later on, they're on the bed. She sets up this wedding planning romantic talk, and they're working through the planning.
This was so funny to me. She was like, okay, so we're gonna do boho glam. And he's like, how does the glam tie with the boho? And she said, the sophistication. Huh? I'm sorry. I still don't get it. But he moved past it. He's like, oh, okay. So maybe he understood it or maybe he was just letting it go. And then she goes, I would like to not have an aisle. To which he's like, what? Like, Marissa just be saying stuff. He's like, so
She's
what do
all
we just,
over.
are we just gonna float down the aisle? Like, the look that he gave after she said, I would rather not have an aisle. It's just like, girl,
How are we gonna
WTF?
get there?
Houseway. Uh, but yeah, I, I don't know. These two are just, they're the most interesting couple to me this entire season. I don't know if they're going to make it. I like them as individuals. If they can figure it out as a couple, I think they look amazing together. But
They
there's just a
do.
lot. The process is a lot, and they have a lot of things to work out.
Yeah, I'll save the rest of my thoughts when we talk about them in episode 11, because this is where I think she may be getting a little bit hoodwinked. I think her perception of him and how he presented himself, which I think has been truthful for the most part. I think she has a certain idea of him based off how he presents and some of the things he says. But I think with that, she's kind of overlooked some other things that are also true about him, but she wants it to not be.
Yeah. Like maybe was it Libra cancer or whatever his,
That like drew her in.
and so she has an idea of what that looks like. So even though he's been transparent about who he is, maybe she has some ideas that aren't aligned with his actual person.
And I think because he doesn't, on the surface, um, lead with being super masculine and all of these things, I think that really drew her in to where it's like, oh, well, maybe I don't need to like look as deep under the surface on certain things initially. Yeah. I think,
Interesting. I can't
yeah,
wait
I
to
think
hear.
she has a view of him based off of one thing, but I think now she's seeing like, oh, maybe there's more there that I need to be thinking about.
Okay. And you said this comes later.
Yeah, it comes later based off the
Okay.
conversation they had on the boat. Yep.
Okay. Fair. Tim and Alex.
Oh, you know,
Drake. I'm sorry, Drake and Drake.
right? Okay, champagne poppy. Got another Scorpio. No, I don't think Tim is a Scorpio.
I wouldn't even know what that means to be a Scorpio. To
Well,
be
no, because
honest.
Drake, the rapper, is a Scorpio. So I was like,
Oh,
oh, I
okay.
wonder if he is too, but I don't think he is.
Okay.
Um,
But he looks like both of his parents to me.
he does.
I, I felt like Alex looked tired during the family meeting. I thought Tim looked, just by looking at them, like, did they have a fight this morning or something?
So I don't know if I got fight. So she walks in and she still has her outerwear on, her purse. Did she have her purse? I don't know,
I don't
but
remember.
she kind of like gives a half hug to them, hands still in the pocket. And for me, yeah, like, I wrote down her hands were in her pocket. It looked like she had like a little shoulder clutch on,
Okay.
and she gave them kind of like a half hug.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that I don't know, something about that initial interaction just kind of gave, oh, I'm here. It just didn't give like warmth
Mm.
in terms of an initial meeting of his
With in-laws.
parents. So
Yeah.
that for me was just kind of like, I don't know how this is going to go because it doesn't give I'm invested kind of energy. Now, I don't know what happened before then, but just based off how she walked in,
Yeah, even the way that he was responding to her answers, because she said all the right things. It was more body
the
language
energy
to
of
me and
it,
energy, yeah. And then the way
yeah.
that he was responding every time she said something, his facial expression, he wasn't giving the warmest energy either, but that's also him, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a very odd family meeting, I
It
thought.
was. And even, his mom basically says, my son is like me as far as separation and when he's in his feelings. It was nice to hear a parent admit, like, hey, these are some qualities that I have about myself that may be showing up in my child that aren't the best. Because I feel like moms maybe can sometimes lack a bit of accountability, and
especially with their sons.
especially my son, my son, my son. So,
Yeah. So then he goes outside with his parents, and Alex stays inside.
which we never saw them having a one-on-one conversation. Why?
I don't know, but something weird was going on. The vibe was off. Not that it's ever been on with these two, from my perspective, but the vibe was completely off. He mentioned, "Oh well, we're not always in sync, like with being, I guess, with her not being interested in being touched or how he joked. Well, he's not interested in her wanting to touch him, and she doesn't like how he jokes." And his mom was pretty much saying to him, which I also appreciated, you need to give and take. Like, it's not just going to be what you want all the time. You have to be sensitive to what hurts your partner. And I thought that was great. I don't know if he heard it. I don't get that Tim is the most sensitive to what might hurt other people from what we've seen this season. But it was nice to hear his mom give that advice.
Something that, just to go back really quick to when Alex was talking with the parents inside, the mom asked a good question. Do you think you'd have to give up anything to be married? And Alex was just like, no. I don't know. Her answer to that just gave, I'm not invested. I'm not interested. Of course, everyone has to make adjustments to be married. Girl, you could have given a little bit more than that.
Or even, I'm sure I'll have to. I haven't quite figured out what that is yet.
Right. A little something extra. Just everything was off about that meeting.
It's
But the parents say that we'll be there just let us know where you need us to be and we'll be there. So
Then we cut to the scene where, so Alice is in the kitchen trying to eat something. Tim comes in very tense. His norm is tense. Now he's very tense. And he goes, "You ready to talk now?" I'm like, "No, she's ready to eat. This girl just sat down with her food." He's like, "Yeah, we could talk right now." Okay. Let's talk. Let's talk, Tim. He was very matter of fact. What did you think about her going to sleep while his parents are in town? There are some things that I just didn't get about this, so I wanted to hear your thoughts.
yeah, so I don't even know if I want to go into all the details of this tit for tat back and forth that they have. I'll start by saying neither one of these people like each other like that. There was never romantic energy.
Yeah.
He seems to be seeking maybe a sister or that type of figure to replace. Alex, I'm not really sure because we never really heard a whole lot on her end, even from the pods in terms of what she was looking for. But what I will say, based from the reveal to the honeymoon, that it just never was really there. So it wasn't going to matter what happened. They were always going to probably end up breaking this off. Now, as far as her falling asleep, I think in something that I noticed, I've seen some comments of people saying like, "Oh, well, she just needed a nap. She just needed a nap." I think it was more so the totality of the interaction, maybe with the parent, and maybe not just the fact that she fell asleep. Because later in the conversation, he referenced like, "Hey, when it came to hosting your family, I prepped, I cooked, I cleaned. You were just there." And I did notice that, and not saying that he should get brownie points for it, but even with her parents, she was like, "Okay, you're gonna go fix the food, go fix their plates." Even as far as her explaining to her dad the process, she really didn't prep much. The onus was on Tim to kind of carry them through that hosting situation. So I think for him, he seems like the type to keep notes of what you're doing and what you're not doing. I think in his mind, he put all this energy into being a good host to her family, while his perception of her was, you barely put any energy into hosting my family.
Mm.
And while I think a nap can be seen as harmless, I think how it's communicated also matters. Did you just leave and didn't say anything? And that's what I'm kind of gathering what could have happened. I can't say for sure, but I also know that when it comes to maybe dealing with older family, I can only speak for Black parents. This whole concept of you being tired and needing a nap. I think when you're first,
Black
you
parents
know,
hate to see you napping.
oh, and even if you say you're tired, like, oh well, back in my day, I had da 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 da
You
da
know
da.
how long
So
I was tired before I could take a nap? 72 years. Come on.
So while I think we're sensitive, thankfully, to our energy and needs,
Mhm.
I could see his mom specifically maybe
Yeah.
feeling away depending on how it was communicated. I know for me, if I'm hosting people in my house, my side or my partner's side, I over communicate like, hey, even if we've been together all day, hey, I'm going to go do a few things I need to get done in my room, or I'm going to go lay down, but I'll be back up at 6 and then we're going to go do this, this, and this. I
Hmm.
make sure to communicate so that they know, don't feel away. You're not imposing. You're still welcomed here. I'm still excited for you to be here. We're going to have a little bit of downtime and then we're going to jump back into spending time together.
Yeah.
So it's harmless, but I think grand scheme, and it wouldn't matter what she did. He didn't like her no way.
I think absolutely. I also wanted to know what the communication was like going into the parents coming. So, did we have plans with your parents all day? Were the parents at the house when she decided to go and take a nap, or were they back at their hotel and maybe he thought, oh, well, we're going to be spending the entire day with them. And so you don't need to take a nap. Like, I I think some communication needed to happen. So even when her parents came and she said, "Okay, here's what's going to happen. We're going to go inside and all eat the food and
Hmm.
then I'm going to bring them out here and you're going to stay inside with him." Even a level of that communication I think would have been great. Like, okay, my parents are going to come, they're driving 10 hours, I want them to have a really good time. Set the expectation. Don't just assume, well, when her parents came, I had this and that structured, so when my parents come, that's what she should do. So you can't expect people to be exactly like you, so you have to communicate so that you remove any questioning. Like if he had said, hey, this is the plan for my parents, so we need to be available however many hours, and then she took a nap, I would feel worse about it. I agree with everything you said. I think you do kind of have to be on your P's and Q's when in-laws are visiting. That's just
To be honest,
culture.
I wouldn't have, if
I
it were
wouldn't have
my
taken a nap.
I wouldn't have taken a nap.
And I love a nap.
I would have drank some coffee. I would have pushed through.
Yeah.
I just would. And Alex, girl, if you're listening, if this is a man that you're really interested in, and you're just meeting his family for the first time, and they drove 10 hours to be with you,
You gotta
girl,
put
get
them
some
on.
caffeine some kind of way, power through it, because especially if they're older people, Black people
Older
of a
black
certain
people
age,
or
it doesn't
African
matter if
people.
you've had the longest day of your life. They not gonna understand. They're not gonna
Yeah.
understand.
But I also wonder, like, is there any room or was there any room for Alex to make any mistakes?
Oh,
And
it,
I
it
don't think there
absolutely
were.
wasn't, because
Yeah.
he was done with her after the honeymoon situation, and she really wasn't interested in him either. And so even when they get back into this back and forth of, oh well, the texting and,
Yeah.
oh, you didn't respond and all of that, it's it was never going to matter what it was.
And I I could see this conversation happening with a couple who's been together for 2 years as well,
Mhm.
or however long. Like when the vibe is off over text, especially over text, because now now you're interpreting what this person means. Oh, well, they didn't even like my message, so they must be feeling some type of way about that. Like, text messages can really mess up the vibe. And so I wasn't surprised to hear him saying, well, we hadn't been talking to each other all day and then this happened. It seemed like things were adding up. And for me, I don't think those are reasons to be like, I'm out of this relationship. It's a very simple miscommunication. You like to communicate a certain way. She likes to communicate another way. You guys are very new. You're still figuring out the other person's communication styles. You have to give and take. Like, this is not a reason to end an engagement with someone who you would actually want to be with.
Yeah, but when she was like, "Oh well, over a text, over a nap, over," no, girl, it's the totality of it. And as harsh as it was when he basically said like, "I do not see you being my wife," I think it's he shouldn't have said it in that way. But I think for him, he's what he's seen of her. He's like, yeah, you're not the person that I would
But
be
who
with.
is like, and that's my issue with Tim, because Alex isn't, she has her issues, but I think Tim is a person who expects someone who thinks exactly like him. And if you don't think exactly like him, he does not understand, one, how to articulate what he's feeling or what he expects. And he's gonna hold those things against you. So it's like, even with the dishes thing, right? So yeah,
Oh
when your
yeah.
parents came, I, cooked the food and I washed the dishes. When my parents came, there were dishes in the sink I had to wash. There are a couple different households. There's a household where as soon as there's a fork in the sink, it's being washed and put up. There's a household where we let the dishes accumulate for a day and then someone washes the dishes at night. There are households where, I don't know, maybe some people let dishes stay overnight, but it doesn't seem like they come from the same background. And wasn't he in the military?
Yeah, he was.
So cleanliness, we've seen Alex's apartment. What about Alex says to you, she's going to wash a few dishes that are in the sink?
Well, I think for him with the whole hosting thing, it wasn't just the dishes in the sink. It was the fact that it's like, okay, the person who cooks, then okay, you cooked, you did. Then I think his
If that's
expectation was
what you
that
grew up with.
the other person would clean, and I somewhat agree with him in that it would be if I have to communicate to you what equity would look like in terms of like running a household, then yeah, you probably wouldn't be the person for me. Um,
Agreed.
and so I agree that they didn't even get to a point where they could explore conversations of, okay, well, what would this look like? And for him, unfortunately, he's kind of a hard ass and, oh, well, you need to think like I think and do things the way I want. I don't know if I would jump to say there isn't a person out there because I've observed people who are similar to Tim and they're partnered with people I've seen it.
Who are millennials and
Hmm.
younger? Interesting.
Yeah, who it's not impossible.
I don't think it's impossible. I think what I'm saying is Tim needs to make adjustments, like, and major adjustments. Alex is not you. Like, I think we would have an easier time if we accepted people for who they are. So for example, if I am a friend who runs late all the time, right? And you're having an event and you're like, "Oh, well, she's not here," and now you're ripping me a new one because I showed up late. It's like, I've shown you who I am. I'm gonna always be late. Like, what is the, like, you have to accept me for who I am. Give me, and by the way, I'm not a late person. This is just an example. But give that person an hour before the start time so that you make sure that they show up at the time that you want them to show up, or just understand this person's probably going to show up late and I'm just gonna have to be okay with that because that's who they are. As yeah, so
Yeah.
I
I
think
think I
he's
think he just needs to find the person that's okay
that
with
thinks
him
like them. And he
the way
needs
that he
to
is. So
understand even if a person is super similar to you, there will be
mhm.
differences and you can't be about to leave every time those differences show up. So
And
that's my issue
he's
with him.
definitely a runner. I even got that the first episode when he, and I hated to judge him so quickly based off of like his early life experience, but the way he described like, oh, I was interested in that and then no, I wasn't. And then I tried this and then no, I wasn't. And then I did this and no, it wasn't for me. So it's not that you can't change your mind. I just got the vibe that he just doesn't see things through. Um,
Oh
and
Lord. Sorry.
yeah,
No,
what?
I was just thinking about other things that he didn't see through.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's those so that's my issue with him. And I've seen it from the beginning where it's just like, well, I'm this way, take it or leave it. It's like that's
Mhm.
to me not the best way to be in relationship, especially the unique relationship of like marriage. There's no relationship like it. Like when my even when I was living in the household with my siblings, if there's a disagreement, we can not talk for days and it doesn't impact the flow. But when it comes to a romantic relationship or a marriage, maybe that's not the best route to take. So he does have to adjust. And then for Alex, it's like you are not interested in the man. If you are, you do have to also try to meet him where he is. But it seems like she said she's been trying. Definitely not with the parents. I don't think she tried at all there. But with the communication thing, where she's like, I can't read your mind. I need you to. So it just seems to me like she's saying to him, this is what I need for this to work. This is how I need things to
Mhm.
go. And he's not willing to change anything.
Yeah, I still don't buy that she was actually interested in him for another reason
Mm-hmm.
too. He lacks any type of like romantic vibe with her, doesn't want to cuddle. You
Mm-hmm.
have you even attempted to romance this woman? No. You don't want
Wait,
to
he
be
did
touched.
say there was when he didn't he tell his mom like there was a point where he tried to like put his hand on her or something. So he that was his attempt.
I don't think she ever got the chance to really fall for him because I never got the sense that he was even interested in romancing her to get her to that point. I saw a lack of trying on both ends. And one thing I want to touch on before we move on from them,
Mm-hmm.
she did mention like, oh, you sat across from my dad and you made these promises. Alex, while I hear you, I don't think you were ever really interested in this man fully from the woof to the
Yeah.
argument that happened on the honeymoon. And so while I understand he did host your parents, read the whole letter, you also made it a big deal of him asking for, your hand and all
But
of that.
he made a big deal of that too. He said that's the only way he
He
would have felt
he
comfortable.
and he participated, but I think even based off you saw more of him than what we saw.
Mm-hmm.
And so, even you bringing your parents to meet him, there were plenty of people this season where we never even saw the parents' interaction. You didn't even have to bring your parents in this process, and we kind of all saw that you really weren't in it. I'm sorry, I don't think you can put that full. I see that as a responsibility that both of you all should share,
So you
even
think
from
she
the
shouldn't
beginning.
have invited her parents? It seems like everybody has to at least attempt to bring their parents, and sometimes the
Monica,
parents
we
say
didn't see
no.
her parents. We didn't see Taylor's dad. We didn't see
Because
Tyler's
but that we
family.
didn't see Taylor's dad because he didn't want to be filmed, but Taylor did reach out to her entire family and try to pull them in. It
I,
just
I,
seems like
I
her
think,
parents were willing to come.
but I also think if you're observing, if I observed what I saw about Tim, girl, why would
Okay.
you
I
bring
mean,
your parents on there? I just don't. I agree. he shouldn't have made these promises. It was 2 days ago. I just think that both of y'all knew because she said something like, but I was willing to see this process through the end.
The process, not the relationship. Yeah, I gathered that too. I definitely
So
gathered that from
you
her.
you're letting me know that you fully weren't interested in this man, and you still decided to bring your beautiful family, by the way, on the show. So while I think Tim has some responsibility in just throwing in the towel, I also don't believe that you were fully invested. And I think you do have to share some responsibility in terms of
Hmm.
including your parents in this process when at the point where you gauged that this may be a no-go given your family's situation with their health and everything, this is probably not a ride you should be taking them on.
So you are feeling like, because I think we could say similar things about Tim bringing his family
Oh,
on the
I agree
show.
with him, but he also was like, "Yep, my parents came." He never, at least from what we heard,
Hmm.
called out the fact that, "Well, I just introduced you to my family and da 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 da." He was
Okay.
just kind of like, "It is what it is." Okay.
So your issue is that she called that out.
Yeah, because she
I,
called it out when she was sitting down with him. She also called it out again to the girls. And I agree, he is
mhm.
obviously an active participant, but you saw more of Tim than what we did.
So I do feel bad for her dad. I don't necessarily feel bad for her, but I did feel bad like for
Oh yeah, her
her like
parents. Yeah,
parents.
her mom was so
um
excited,
yeah,
but
but also hmm, I the whole Tim situation, I feel like he, he might be a person who had has the best intentions and knows how to like kind of swing for the fences, but doesn't have the commitment to match it. And so that's where I can see what she's saying, where it's like, you not only asked my dad for my hand in marriage, but you're like, oh, I intend to do XYZ. So why say that you intend to? Like, Alex didn't make any promises to his parents, really. That's the issue. Like, there was a lack of commitment from her, even with his family. But he went like the complete extra mile, but doesn't have the commitment to match it. I don't know. Not that I see more fault with one than the other.
I think both of them should like if you're going to participate in this process,
Yeah.
I agree. Tim, he definitely, I
He's
think
mean and petty. The dishes thing
he
happened 2 days ago, and he's just telling her about it today. Like, really?
I think I don't know. I just see both of them as the same. You know, you didn't like each other.
Yeah.
Why try to push the blame on? Oh, but my parents were. Y'all all knew what this was, and the fact that because he couldn't anticipate that she would put minimal effort with his family or wouldn't commit to too much. He didn't know
You
that.
don't think so?
I personally just believe
Alex
if
gives
if
minimal
you
effort to me in general.
hmm?
I said Alex gives minimal energy to me, period. And that's
Oh yeah,
why I'm
he's
just
very
like, you're not easy to defend either, sister.
yeah, so it's just one of those things where I think you're both adults.
Yeah.
Alex, you saying you were willing to see this through to the end, that means that you were also willing to get your parents to the wedding day, the altar. Everyone's high on emotion. So I just think you were a willing, both sides were willing participants who bought their families on the show. And I think both of them should just share the responsibility in things didn't work out. I think for Alex, I never saw that she was actually interested in this man.
Okay.
So that's
I
why I
think,
feel like I'm having a hard time where it's like, girl, you knew you weren't interested, so why even bring your
yeah.
dad to participate?
I think she was interested.
You did?
I do.
Even with
Especially
all
with
the
the
wolf
pods.
wolf?
So from the pods, and then I think decreasingly Like it just decreased over time. So after
From
the
the first
pod,
from the meeting, I got
from the
no.
meeting, so from the meeting, I felt like she was saying, please don't mess this up for me. Like, you keep bringing the dog thing. I like you and I want to continue to like you. She was literally begging him to stop saying the dog thing. Like, don't mess this
Even on
up.
the
Please don't mess this
honeymoon.
up. I think she was interested. And over time, it was just like, I see what he is. And now I'm even less so. And,
Mm.
and I think it started on the honeymoon because was it a couple of reviews ago? I said the reason why she keeps asking him, do you really see this forever? Is because she was starting to feel like I can't see this forever.
And
But I
you
do think
did
at a
say
point she
that.
was interested.
Yeah, you were like she kept asking him that.
Mhm.
And so that's why I'm also like, girl, you were on to something.
Yeah. How old
So
is Alex? 30. Is she 30 yet?
I think she is
31
31 or so,
or something like
32.
that.
Yeah, I think 31
Yeah.
or 32. I'm no fan of
We
either one of
spent
these.
so much time talking about them. I just think I do feel like Tim is very mean. I think he's very like I need to have the he's very like sassy. I need to have the last word and it's going to be a last word that'll cut you deep. I felt this way when he said that he went and got that mustard sweater just to get on his
Mm.
ex's nerves. Like, I just think he has a very like mean
So if
nature.
you get this mean-spirited energy from him,
Mhm.
Alex, did you not like
I
I know she was feeling it and I really hope
yeah
we hear more about whatever happened on the honeymoon.
yeah because I think of and I think she was doing this for the process, but the one good thing that I've noticed about her is coming back and trying to resolve the issues. I
Mm.
think if there's one redeeming quality that she has, which I don't know that I can say she has many that we've seen. Again, we didn't get to know her much in the pods, so that kind of took that away from us. But it's that it seems like she is willing to always come back and say, okay, well, here's what happened, let's resolve it, as opposed to here's what happened and now I'm out.
Yeah, because in that last conversation, I guess she said she wanted to say more, but wanted to make sure that he was had an open mind
Hmm.
to potentially move forward.
And he
But
said,
then
I'm
again,
always listening to understand. No,
Alex,
you're
this
not.
man is being mean to you. He basically all he told you, I don't see a wife in you.
Mm,
And so why would you still be interested in exploring a conversation
yeah.
to potentially move
Stand up.
forward? Girl. And
Yeah.
that's why I think if he hadn't been so cold and put his foot down,
She
I
would have taken it to the end. I
she
think
would
she
have taken
started
it to
off
the
being
end.
interested in him and over time lost the interest in him, but wanted to at least stay throughout the process, maybe do the filming, do the whatever,
And
and
drag your
complete
family
that.
to the wedding? Okay.
I do not know. I do not know. But it worked out how it was supposed to. I think
I'm glad he ended it.
took us out of our misery.
Thank you. Thank you, Tim. Yeah.
One less couple to review. Okay, we spent so much time on them, but please guys let
Yeah.
us know in the comments what you felt about the Alex and Tim situation. Um if you felt one of them was more at fault, if you feel both of them need to share the responsibility, just let us know in the comments. All right. Ashley and Tyler, we don't have much on them going into the group
Mm-mm.
meetup. She says, I don't hate you. I'm just disappointed in you.
I think we lost her. I think she's gone. I think she's a goner.
What if there is so much more to this story than we're seeing on it? Because Tyler hasn't addressed any of the allegations really.
Mm-mm.
So what if, I mean, but whether he addresses them or not, we know those kids know what he looks like. Like, let's be,
Right.
he
So
continued to lie.
he claims, just so we focus on the show, that he had a really close friend and her wife, like a lesbian couple, wanted a baby but couldn't afford a sperm donor.
Mhm.
He said he thought God told him to do something special.
God's probably in heaven, like, take me out of, leave my name. What did Will Smith say? Anyway,
Hmm.
yeah. So
Yeah.
he said God was telling him to help. Uh, and then she asked, like, do they know what you look like? And he says, I don't think so. He doesn't say no. I don't think so.
He's I,
That just irritated me.
yeah, she says she's willing to take it hour by hour at this point. So
I I did appreciate that she was giving herself time, or she said she was going to give herself time. Okay, with the facts that he, with the story that he presented,
hmm.
I don't know if I were her friend, I would probably be like, "Girl, get out." But maybe she's
You would
willing
have to do
to.
more research,
Maybe
more
she's willing to tolerate three of them, though.
uh, I think if it were a situation where he was actually just like, hey, here's a gift to you, but we've all moved on with our life, I wouldn't have an issue with her being with him.
And
I
that's what he's
wouldn't.
presented to her.
And that's what
So,
he's presented. If he has documentation to prove it, if you're never going to be at risk for being financially responsible for these children. If I were her friend, I'd be like, okay, if the documentation checks out, is this an ideal situation? No. How old were you when you, because he's 30, is he
two, I think.
34? He's
Okay.
32. I would ask,
No.
how old is the oldest child? Are they 7? So you did this in your 20s.
Hmm.
Did this just happen? Like there's so much that we did. These kids just get here? Did you sign the birth certificate? I mean,
And maybe she has those answers, and that's why she's comfortable moving forward. And they're not showing the questions and the answers and the documents to us. Maybe they've left this ambiguous so that it can bring up drama. I don't know. Like,
yeah,
so maybe she does know these things, but I'm scared for her. I'm not gonna lie, especially with him continuing to lie about it. Um,
yeah.
that's just not cool. All right.
Then we have Taylor and Garrett.
Yeah, so nothing really happens until they're about to get to the meetup.
About this text message.
Yeah, this DM or whatever it was. So when they were standing out in front of the Shake Shack, uh apparently Garrett had gotten a text from his ex. Did he tell Taylor that the text came in? Like, how
I
did she
think
find out?
so. It
Okay, so
sounds like he told her, but as they're getting ready or on their way, he tried to make it real quick, like, oh yeah, like my ex did reach out to
Mhm.
me. I guess maybe to cover himself in case she ever came across the message.
Mhm.
He's like, I'm gonna tell you. But he claims from this initial conversation that he just liked the message. She
And
was
kept it pushing.
already irritated that
Yeah.
he didn't say more.
So and that was the issue because she's like, "Oh, and you just liked it so you left it hanging out there in the open." That would be upsetting because you haven't said, "Hey, I'm with this person now and this is what's going on." You just left it hanging, like maybe leaving this person to think, "Oh, it's okay to continue to reach out to me," or like you didn't shut it down is what her issue was.
I agree. I don't know if I would have been as emotional about it in that moment. I
The
think
day
I would have
before
been
he
like,
meet her
yeah,
parents in this quick of a process.
yeah, maybe I can't relate because I've never been in this process, but I think I would have just been like, hey, you need to shut that down, be more
Yeah.
specific, and then I would just keep it moving. I don't know
Yes.
if I would, especially knowing if I'm going to meet my parents tomorrow, like I would try to keep myself in as even of energy as possible because if I'm off, my parents would definitely pick up on it. And then that would lead to way more explaining than I would want
But
to
then she's
do.
not addressing how she actually feels, which I think would be
Mm,
betraying herself and her emotions. Like, hey, I don't like this thing.
yeah, I think I would communicate that I didn't like it, but I don't know if I
Mm.
would have been as amped as she was. She's like, why you spring this on me? We're about to go in here. I don't know.
I get it. One, this is a stranger. Y'all just met. Y'all spent 10 days talking, a
Hmm.
week vacationing, and now it's been what, 3 weeks or so, maybe four. So it's been a month at this time, and you're deciding whether you want to marry this person. I think just the
Yeah.
nature, yes, in normal everyday life, it could be a longer conversation and, we could, maybe go into the details of everything. But with this process, for me, I would be like,
Hmm.
maybe let's hold off on meeting my parents. I mean, I probably wouldn't have canceled it at this point, but these are the thoughts that I would be
Yeah.
having. Maybe let's hold off on meeting my parents because I need to know what your involvement is with this ex, how comfortable you are with them reaching out. I need to know what that whole situation is before I go and sign up for this. That's how I would be feeling in
Mm.
this fast of a situation.
I would also read, what did the message say?
And
That's
that's what
another
we
thing.
needed to
I
show
was
that
like,
to us.
yeah, they didn't show it. She never said, he never said. So I don't know. Was it a, hey, I want you bad? Or is it like, oh, I hope life
Right.
is
Hope you're
well?
doing well.
Yeah. So I think that also matters too. I think in my head, it was a, hey, hope all is well, because I think
Okay.
he did say they would talk from time to time. Like it wasn't a thing where
Mm,
they had bad blood. But that was my assumption, that it wasn't a, hey,
yeah.
I want you back type of text. It was, oh yeah, we usually would, check in on each other, hope all is well type
Mm.
of thing. So, but obviously Taylor wouldn't know that. So,
Also, I mean, an ex from 9 years ago, you still doing the check-ins. That's interesting to me. But if it is just I think I assumed because of how upset she was that it had to be more than, hey, how are you doing? So
mm,
I was on the opposite end of assuming than you were. But
hmm,
yeah, I thought if she's so amped, maybe this person's trying to spin the
come back
block.
in the fold. Yeah.
Right. And he didn't
Yeah.
address it.
Hmm.
So yeah.
But technically, I guess he did.
And that I'm like, what's not clicking? So her main issue was that you just liked it and you didn't respond. At that moment, wouldn't you say, "Oh no, I did respond and I said, hey, I'm with someone else now." And so that's
No.
why she's like, "No, baby, the story is changing, and I don't like that."
I'm actually not shocked that he handled it the way he did.
Really?
I-
Wait, what do
Mm-mm.
you mean? Like that he?
That he left it the way it was when they were walking into the party. Hmm.
Why?
Because I think from his mind, I don't agree with it. I wouldn't have did it, but I think from his male mind, I'm going to keep this as succinct and short as possible. If I start saying too much, then this
We
could
not
turn
going to this
into
party.
a much bigger thing. I told her I just like the message, and she's already on 10. I'm definitely not following up with more information before I walk into this party. I'm not saying I agree with it. It's
Yeah,
silly.
yeah.
But I think in his mind, less is better.
Just so
And men
dumb.
and women lie through omission all the time. So I'm not shocked that he downplayed this to her initially. It happens all the time because they're thinking they are protecting you by giving you less information.
But they're not. They're protecting themselves because really what Taylor would have wanted was the most information. I'm this person where it's like, okay, tell me every detail because I don't even want your own interpretation of the details. Show me everything and let me decide. Like let me read in
Mhm.
between the lines and get all the information. So he's thinking, oh, I'm protecting by omitting when all she wants is the information. Like feed me the facts so I can
Mhm.
decide how amped up I need to be or how not amped up I need to be. But
Yep.
yeah. So then they get into the party. Do you want to continue with Garrett and
Yeah, let's just get them. Yeah.
so then they're talking to Ashley and Tyler. Another
Mhm.
omission. It's the omission crew
But I
just
think,
hanging
well,
out.
Tyler is an extreme situation, but I think,
Very.
yeah, it's a thing where people, they just think, hey, I'm protecting you. The less you know, the better. I'm
I
not saying
don't
it's
buy
right
it.
or that I operate in that way.
Yeah.
Um, and they also aren't thinking long term about when more information comes out, how now you're really gonna question
It's
things.
such a
So
short-sighted way of living. But yeah, it's
And
so
I think because of this process, it's way worse. I think if you had time to build a foundation in a relationship, I think it could be easier to maybe move past things like
yeah.
this, depending on what it is, of
Like
course.
I would be
And
irritated anyway in regular life, but
mhm.
because it's so short, not only am I irritated, I'm questioning you. Have you admitted other things? Have you like everything is up for grabs at this point because
And
of
I
the
think
process.
sometimes people make an assumption that maybe emotionally you can't handle the full story. Maybe not in this instance, but like in other situations
Yeah.
I've witnessed where it's like, oh, I'm going to leave that out because I don't think they can handle all of it. They're making the decision for you
For
on if you
you.
can handle it or
Hmm.
not. So,
Yeah. Okay. So that's that. Uh,
mhm.
what else happened at the meetup? Okay, so we have to talk about Mar- the Marissa Bowden and Ramses
Mhm.
meetup. I thought this is as good of a meetup as it could get for
Yeah.
X's in the pods. I mean, I didn't appreciate them laughing at Bowden like that, but it was a good conversation.
It was, and like she said, she's feels like she made the right decision.
I
So
think she did too. I really do like Bowden though. I want him to end up with somebody. Bring him back for another season.
yeah, unless she decided to get back in the military, she gonna wish she was with Bodie.
Ashley said Ashley said that, Tyler, he gets her coffee every day. He gets her flowers every day. He fights for her.
It, you know, I, that's the thing is the to me these are kind of basic things that
Uh,
maybe if you're not used to it, it can maybe seem like, oh wow, these are big things that this person is doing, but it's like you're also in a controlled experiment. So what else does this person have to do?
I think flowers every day isn't necessarily a norm. So that gave me a little bit of love bombing, just a little bit.
Oh,
Like
oh yeah, the
every
flowers.
single day, like the flowers from yesterday haven't even died yet. Like, and now I got some brand new ones. So, but I'm also not a flower person. So I don't know if that would be the norm to be wanting flowers or getting flowers every day.
And then while she's talking with the girl, she brings up, the whole sperm donor situation.
Mhm.
And the girls tell her, like, oh, I think you can move past this.
Yeah.
Y'all have probably little information like we do. And you're just
Even
like, oh,
less
yeah.
because they only have what Ashley's telling them.
Yeah, that I didn't like that. I would have
At
sat
all.
there and just ate my food. I wouldn't have.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would have been like, "Oh, girl, you need to leave," because I maybe not. I wouldn't be close
Can't say
enough to
that
her to
yet.
do that. But I also wouldn't be like, "Oh yeah, girl, you should move past it." No, just eat my
Yeah,
French
just
fries.
interrogate it and do what you feel is best. And then Monica shows up. We just can get her out of the way. She says she and Steven talked for 2 hours and they're in a good place, which I don't know that I fully buy that unless other things have happened. But she was on her social media making reels
Mm-hmm.
about him and
And he was
sharing how much.
crashing out.
Yeah, she shared how much she shared the Venmo, receipt, whatever he sent her. I'm like, okay, if y'all were in a good place at 36, 37, just move on now. It's over. Anyway,
Yeah.
all right. Now let's get to Hannah, Nick, Katie. So I think whenever Nick said to Hannah that the person who he would want to talk to was Katie, she decided, well, I'm going to control the situation. I'll
Mhm.
introduce Katie to him and I'll
So
stand
odd.
there while they have the closure conversation and that'll be it. And that's why as soon as Katie comes in, oh, do you want to meet Do you want to meet Nick? Yeah, let's go meet Nick. And she walks him over there and she stands there the entire time monitoring the conversation. In her head, that should have been the only conversation that took place.
Mm-mm.
And so she's upset that they decide to sneak off. And well, they didn't even sneak off. It was right in front of
No.
everybody. Nick isn't sneaky, at least not on this
And
show.
the production, you're on camera, so everything is going to be recorded, and
Everything is
so
content.
it she was just looking for a reason to be in her feelings. But I also think the way Katie was like, wow, he looks really nice. Oh, he looks really good. That also didn't help. I think what's interesting is when they first came out of the pods, wasn't wasn't Hannah like, oh, he doesn't match what you would think he would look like? So I think also for Katie to be
Yes.
so positive about how Nick looks, that threw her off. Like, oh, you
Completely.
find him interesting after you were just hating on
Yeah.
this man. And just to be frank, like, I don't think he's a bad looking person. Like, he looks fine. So I think she's just feeling a way that another woman is
Is
finding him
interested.
attractive.
Yes, absolutely. So, and I for a second I was like, oh, does Kate really think he's that Katie? Does she really think he's that cute, or is she just doing this because the cameras are rolling? Uh,
I think she did find him
Cute.
attractive. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, let's talk about the Kate and Nick conversation, and then I want to come back to the Ashley and Hannah conversation. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I like Katie. She sits down with Nick, and all of the criticisms that other people have about him, she also had, but the way that she presented them. And I think
Mm-hmm.
Hannah needs to be taking notes, because you don't have to completely, demean somebody to say to them, hey, there are some things that you need to work on. And Katie is a grown woman. She handled it very well. She said, in the pods, what turned me off is that you were coming off with this, oh, you're so hot, all this like physicality. And I
Mm-hmm.
think you're a genuinely good person. Maybe lead with those other characteristics
Mm-hmm.
and not the flirtation so much. Like, she said everything that needed to be said to Nick, but in a way that he could receive it and not feel like crap about himself.
And I think when Hannah probably watches this back, she will probably be surprised, like, oh, her and I are in agreement. She wasn't
Mhm.
trying to push up on me on my man. Now there was a few times where you could tell they were flirting just a little bit, but I think Katie was maybe warming him up to the feedback
Mhm.
of this is what's coming.
Yeah.
So
She's
not
35. She
not that she would
acted.
actually be interested in him. That was the other
Yeah.
thing, their age difference. That was a thing for her as well. So Hannah feeling away, I think, was unwarranted. And
Mhm.
pretty much all of the potential couples have a one off sit down at this
Mhm.
point. So,
Mhm. Yeah, because even Marissa and Bowden, they were talking before Ramses came up. Like, it seemed like it
hmm
was a much longer conversation. But yeah, I really liked Katie. I think she seemed very kind, and talked about his immaturity in a way that was respectful of him. Like, he didn't feel like less of a human being
hmm
after that conversation. So I thought that was
yeah,
great. Now back to Ashley and Hannah's conversation. I
that
thought
did not need to happen.
she put this man on Front Street so many different times. It's like, and I love him so much. You would not expose someone who you loved in this way.
And you know what? Is she wanted to blast him out, clearly. The cameras are there. Said way too much. Even after this man told you, hey, I have a brand, I don't want to
Hmm.
talk too much about that on camera, completely disregard his requests. You do it, you have this conversation with Ashley, who you're not even super close with, I don't think. And so he,
Yeah.
whether it's true or not, the way that you've been treating this man, I don't feel no way about it. The fact that he's not uber giving to you to please you. What are you expecting from a
He's a
person
child.
that you've been putting down? You
This
think he's
entire
going to
time.
be like, "Oh yeah, I just want to do these things for you." Absolutely not.
Yeah.
So, whatever. I don't even care. I don't even know if I believe it.
Yeah. But Ashley said it best. So I just want him to see the fun Hannah and not this intense
Do you?
version of
Are
her.
you fun?
No, I wouldn't be her friend.
The Hannah you were in the pods, I don't think it's the real Hannah.
Hmm.
I think we're seeing the real Hannah, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah. All
So,
right. And then just the last thing that I have on there is that Garrett said, well, if you don't want to go see your parents tomorrow, we don't have to. Honestly, that That would make me even more upset. Like, don't put me in this situation where now I have to decide. Nonsense. I would be livid.
You know, I was trying not to read too much into this with Garrett. It
Yeah.
was either a silly, really honest misreading of the situation, mistake,
Yeah.
or he purposefully, because he's a smart man, he purposefully threw a wrench in there, because when he was like, "Oh, we don't have to go see
I'm
your
like,
parents,"
do you not want to go? Like,
I,
are you
I think
sabotaging?
I think his mom not being on board with this in terms of the move and everything, I think that it may be weighing on him more than what he's showing her. I do.
Interesting.
I think he may have threw a wrench in there just to see if he could slow things down a bit.
Hmm.
It's either you were super naive and stupid, or you threw a wrench in there on purpose to throw her off her game, for her to pull back, to be like, no, we're gonna put a pause on things, because now now that things are really getting down to decision time, he's also really evaluating, like, man, am I really gonna pick up my whole life and move to California? And really, that's the only way that this is gonna work. So only time will tell.
Yeah. But that's not a comforting thing to ask. Like, I've gone out on a limb to tell my family about you. My dad is at odds with this whole situation. And now you're like, oh, well, we could cancel. Do you know how flaky that makes you look?
Why ask that? He would have been open to canceling it. And that's why I'm like, Garrett,
What
you're
is going on?
smart. Did you really? Oops. Lie. And then why open up about exactly what you said in the text in a group setting with Tyler and Ashley? Now all of a sudden you got diarrhea of the mouth?
They said maybe he felt a little comfortable because Tyler was there, because his boy was there. But
Yeah, but I don't know. I just feel like you're too smart for that.
yeah. Anyway, episode 11. We've talked
Mm,
for over an hour about just, but there's not much in episode 11, like the wedding dresses and stuff. So let's do Hannah and Nick and get them out of the way, because I feel like that's all right. So they come back and she's like, well, what was the conversation? What conversation did you have with Katie? Hannah does this thing that would irritate me if I were her partner, where I've either come back from work and I'm tired, or we just came back from this party and now you want to have this long conversation. It's just not the time. Can we table this for tomorrow and get some sleep? But she decides to have the conversation now, and she calls Katie her best friend in the whole wide world, as if they didn't just meet in the pods. And she's upset that they've had this long 40-minute conversation.
yeah, and he gives a quick summary of basically what happened. Of course, it's not enough for her, but I was glad that he put it back on her. If this is your best friend, you go ask her.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
said, "Oop, not Nick getting smart." But of course she's not going to ask Katie, because that'll make her seem insecure or
Hmm.
vulnerable. Like, yeah. So she's not going to
And
do
she
that.
is, because she's like, oh, well, she kept saying you were hot. What does that have to do with me? He
He
didn't know
probably
that
like,
she.
you
Yeah.
boosted his ego, sis.
Hmm.
uh and then she talks about how she's taught him everything he knows. She turned him from a boy into a man. Hannah, you can't
Hmm.
even turn yourself from a girl into a woman. Emotionally, you are 5. Like, let's be
Yeah.
very honest. Work on yourself. Sweep your own front door before you go and like try to. I just, it makes me want to take up for Nick, but then I also realize that he needs to grow up a little bit too. So I can't
But
take up for him too
someone
much.
needing to grow up, that doesn't mean that you should be like, that's more of
Mean
an
with them.
individual issue.
Yes.
She is being mean to another person. So
Mm-hmm.
the things he has going on within himself, he hasn't lied about it. He's presented the whole picture. So as an adult, it's up to you if you want to continue to be in a relationship with them. So
Yeah.
I don't know. For me, I'm okay with calling out her bad behavior, because he hasn't
Oh yeah.
exhibited any bad
And
behavior other than this is just who I am.
irresponsibility.
Yeah, that's who I
And
am.
his stuff still gets it. Like, maybe if he had to take care of things, he would. Like, if you're put in a situation where you have to take care of things, a lot of people would rise to the occasion. He's just not in that
Mhm.
position where he has to feed the cat. If his dad wasn't there and he had to feed the cat, I'm sure the cat would still get fed, but that's just not his reality. And then after everything, she's like, well, it's 1:30. I want to go to sleep. You started this conversation, ma'am. Yeah. Nick says, I'm giving my world to you, which he doesn't have the world to give, but I appreciate your efforts, buddy. That's how I feel about that. And
Okay.
then later on, they met the friends. If I disliked her before, I would never bring somebody to meet my friends just to sit there and berate him in front of them. Like, if I'm introducing somebody to my friends, this is my partner. I have this person's back, and that's what I'm presenting to the friends, not, hey, let's all put him in the middle and gang up on him. That's what she wanted her parents to do, and they wouldn't go for that because they're more mature. But, her friends, they're probably similar to her.
And while I think the whole setup of the conversation was off. If this is someone you truly love and care about, you wouldn't put them in that situation.
Mm-mm.
And it's not on your friends to try to convince your partner what they should or shouldn't be doing to maybe rise to the occasion
Yeah.
to be with you. And so on the one hand, her friends were like, well, it's not her asking you to change these things about yourself. These are just very simple. No,
These are actions.
no, it kind of is. I'm with him and this is who I am. This is how I've presented myself. It's up to you whether you want to be with me or not.
Hmm.
I'm with him on that.
And if he's not for you, like, you don't have to stay there. And she keeps saying, oh, I love him so much. You don't even know what if this is love, like bullying another human being and not seeing them as an equal because you feel like they're not contributing enough. You don't know what love is. You don't have a love bone in your body.
No, it's yeah. I would never participate in anything like that. I would just say, oh, okay, these are the things you don't want to do,
Yeah.
because I would never want you to be begging a man to do certain things. Like,
Either be okay with him not doing it or find someone who is okay with doing it.
hmm,
Okay, so later on, they don't go to the wedding dress thing. And she tells her mom, Nick he doesn't match me, and my friends didn't like him. Girl,
it,
you don't
and
like
this,
him.
and this is where she lied, because with the friends she was trying to present like, oh, but these are just small tweaks or things that you should be able to adjust. But then when you sit with your mom, you have a whole list of things and how y'all just don't match.
Hmm.
Well, then why didn't you present that energy with the friends?
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
mom looked annoyed. I don't know if you caught that.
The mom is over her, and rightfully so. But then I felt like her mom gave the worst possible advice, but maybe she meant it in a different way. So when she was saying, oh yeah, my friends don't like him either, and the mom goes, well, none of that matters if you love each other. Like, girl.
Well, another lie she was caught in, she told Nick, I don't care about what other people think or how they feel about what we're going to do. Didn't she say that to him?
I don't remember. Probably.
I think she did when she,
Put it
I
past
think
her.
when she sat down with him earlier, because he said something about like, oh, I would want to make you to have a good impression on my family and friends. She was like, well, I don't care. I'm the one who's going to be with you. So
Got you,
now all
got
of a
you.
sudden you care about these friends.
Yeah. And when she had the sit down with him, I said, if you're ending it, just end it. Stop dragging him. And he even pointed that out. You're throwing shade. You're being very demeaning. And she was like, when she starts questioning him, like, oh, what are your responsibilities? I do not owe you any explanations. I don't have to give you a list of the things I'm responsible for or not responsible for. And this is where I wish he had a little bit of Alex in him. Am I saying these things because you're trying to work things out, or am I saying, or have you already made your mind up? Because I'm not about to go back and forth with you about any of this stuff.
Mm-mm. She
And
got
I
her
mean,
pen
Tim
and
isn't
paper.
as bad as Hannah, I don't think, but
Yeah, she
still,
got her pen and paper, her notepad, as if this is an interrogation.
yeah, Yeah, just leave it be. And then she's like, you're delusional. I don't know that she knows what delusional means because if anybody is delusional, it's her for thinking she's just this ultimate catch because she had to be responsible at an early age and thinking she's mature and all. Like, she's the most delusional person we've seen this entire season. Nick doesn't give me delusional. He knows he doesn't have many responsibilities. He doesn't pretend like he's, this person who has a whole bunch of responsibilities. He lives with his parents. He's upfront about that. She's delusional.
Yeah.
And
And
sorry,
I,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think Hannah is the biggest flip, the biggest crash out.
Hmm.
I out of these two, I expected we would get something from her in terms of her behavior, but not to this level.
Yeah.
For you to have us on here, kind of low key defending Nick D.
How dare you put us in this position? But no, I think she believes it comes off as powerful and in control, but she just seems very mean and emotionally empty, like emotionally unaware.
When she was sitting with the friends, and this is another area where, oh my girl, your friends, you may need to evaluate. She was like, I know I could just say the meanest, most harsh things, but if you really know me, you know it's coming from the most kind place.
No, mean
And they
words
were,
don't come from a kind place ever.
and the friends are co-signing it. Just like,
Ridiculous. And then in her personal talk, she's like, I feel manipulated. I feel weak. I
if
hope you don't show
any,
up to the reunion, Miss Hannah.
she will.
Over
If
you.
anything, Nick D, which I don't think he was ever into her, but
No,
at least he carried himself with dignity and respect to get through this
absolutely.
process.
He was mature in that way.
He was enough not to crash out like this on international television.
And even when she said that he was trying to figure out, okay, well, how are we going to handle this? Well, duh, he has a brand to protect, and he said he knew that you were just going to be extremely ruthless. So I would understand why he would be wanting to make sure that this is handled in as tactful of a way as possible. Yeah.
Yeah, I think she also got an inkling he would probably say no at the altar as well. And she wouldn't want to be embarrassed. So,
All right, so we like briefly lost connection, but yeah, I think we're just wrapping up on the whole Hannah and Nick situation and understanding why he wanted to not just leave it wide open and wanted to manage the situation at least.
yep,
Okay, so Taylor and Garrett, they did end up going to San Diego,
they did.
so it seems
Looks
like they
like things
figured it
went
out,
well.
which yeah, which is good.
Yeah.
Ashley and Tyler, you
Oh
know,
wait, Taylor and Garrett, they sat down with her mom.
oh yes, okay, I think I have
Yeah.
that later. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so we'll just get them out of the way.
Okay.
So they sat down with her mom. It seemed
Hmm.
to go well. The mom was just saying that she had to talk the dad off the ledge.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is a extreme experiment, but they will be there to support her
Hmm.
regardless. So,
Period. All right,
yeah.
Ashley and Tyler. So she was talking about how she's come to terms with, okay, if the kids want to be in Tyler's life in 5 years, I'm like, girl, they about to be in his life in 5 minutes. You don't even know. But she said that she was able to move past it. So, but then she said, well, if anything else comes up, I can't make you any promises. So I don't know how the last month has been for her, but I hope she's well.
And I can say I'm kind of not that surprised that she's
Yeah.
willing to give it a go. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's that. Then later on, do you want to talk about their skydiving?
Yeah, I mean, it looked fun.
Yeah.
I don't know. With them, it's kind of like we know a whole lot, so
It's hard to talk about
it's hard to react to it because it's half the information. So,
because he said something after the skydiving. He's like, "Yeah, see, I wasn't lying in the pods. I told you, I would do the skydiving thing. It's like letting things go and diving into this new life together or whatever." I think Ashley is a gem, and I just hope life goes well for her. But that's all I have
Yeah.
on those two. All
Okay.
right. So Marissa and Ramses. I mean, the first thing I have on Marissa is the dress shopping, and that I loved how
Okay.
her mom was supportive because I didn't know what to expect from her mom.
I wanted to circle to this time that they had on this boat where they're in the hot
Mm,
tub and I guess it's like
that
their
was this
last date
episode.
together. And
Yeah.
she was talking about how, I shouldn't have to remind you about certain things that need to happen with the wedding planning and as far as like, are you going to get my mom a gift? And she seemed to feel a way that she was carrying more of the mental load, being the woman in the situation. And she doesn't want it to be a representation of their future. And he was just like, well, those things just aren't a big deal to me. And the way my mind prioritizes things. And I don't know. I think Marissa saw Rams as this very progressive, not super masculine male person. And I think she clung on to that and was like, oh, this probably will follow through in maybe his viewpoint on other things. And I think now that more time has passed and they're getting maybe into more real life situations, she's seeing that maybe her quest for having a partner who's really open to equality, that it may not transfer into all areas. And I
Mm.
think that that may be an issue for her.
Hmm.
And that
Interesting.
this little thing that seems small as far as like the wedding planning, because she went into like, I'm doing a lot of things. I'm traveling back and forth. You're working from home. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. Like she's listing off all these things, and I can sense the frustration in her and her alluding to how women a lot of times find themselves carrying way more in a home domestic relationship situation where
Hmm.
men aren't as open or as likely to be able to multitask. So I don't know. I think she's kind of taken aback that he's operating in this way because in the beginning he seemed so open to being equal and not following traditional paths.
Yeah, so I agree with everything that you're saying. I think the list that she was making wasn't just in general, though. It was that, oh, I can handle all these things, and I'm still thinking about what gift to get
Hmm.
for your mom. So, are you going to get a gift for mine? And I thought two things. One, like, people who are like just natural gift givers, that's their priority, right? Like, that's their top love language. And I can see how they get frustrated when other people are like, "Oh, I'm not even thinking about getting a gift for this person. You know, I show up in other ways, but a gift isn't my priority." So I was like, that could also be something that's at play here where she feels like this gift is so important. And he's like, "Oh, that's not necessarily as important to me." Like, you and I have been friends, right? Forever. We're not huge, like, oh, every birthday we have to give each other this like big gift. Like, that's just
Hmm.
not our vibe. But I've seen other friend groups where that's the thing that they do. And so I'm like, I can't measure up to that. I don't necessarily have the capacity for it, but I'll do whatever it is that I can. So I thought that, but then also what you said about the capacity thing. Like, Marissa seems to be a person who just has a lot of capacity. She can think about things, multiple things at a certain time, whereas Rams, he's like, I'm focused on our relationship and what that would look like. Like, that's his primary focus. And so some kind of way they have to find a balance there. This was
And I
really
think,
relatable. Yeah.
yeah, and I think for her, I think she was very excited in that like, oh, I'm not getting like a typical guy who's gonna let me fall into that role of
Hmm.
doing it
Taking
all.
on. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, oh, men don't have to multitask or don't have to happen as much, especially when she was calling out like, okay, well, what will this look like in the future when we
Yeah.
are married and we have kids? Even when she said like, even you helping with the other wedding planning tasks that I've assigned to you, like you haven't gotten to those yet. So
Hmm.
I think for her, it's simple. It's a simple situation where she's like, okay, but
For
what does
her.
this look like in the bigger scheme of things once we actually
Hmm.
start to merge our lives together? And it's you being a lawyer and him doing his thing. Like, y'all are going to be juggling a lot of things. And I
Always.
think she was kind of maybe enamored by how he seemed very flexible and
Hmm.
very
And it seems
open.
like he is. So like,
And
and
he
that's the
he is
thing.
he
But
is, but I think there is this element of Rams where
yeah.
he maybe might fall into that traditional mindset a bit of how some men may think when it comes to juggling it all, and certain things may end up falling more on her plate just because she's better at it because she's a woman and able to handle it. I'm not saying it will be that way.
Yeah. This
I
is
think
for
her mind
people who,
is being opened to
yeah.
how it might be.
This is an issue just for people, which it does often tend to be women who just have the capacity, I think. But I interestingly just had a conversation the other day where a friend was saying that in his relationship, like, he's like, I just kind of had to realize, oh, my partner is better at handling these things like the planning and the this. But when they get on the ground, he's like, that's my time to shine. So I have realized, okay, let them do the planning, but also when we get on the ground, I need to, contribute a lot more. I need to make sure we have the car, we are navigating things, we are doing XYZ.
Mhm.
Marissa seems to be a person who has a lot of capacity. And so she's going to have to, one, accept that maybe her partner realistically just doesn't have as much as her. But I would also encourage her to let a few balls drop. Just because you have the capacity, that doesn't mean you have to operate at full capacity at all times.
Yeah, because she mentioned a lot about, equality and
Hmm.
maybe also just with some life experience. Like, I don't know, when you're starting a family and it's like, and your partner, things may not always be equal
Yeah.
at all points in time. Like, there may have to be some flexibility, as you mentioned in the example, where it's like, oh, yeah, the planning part isn't equal, but then I'm able to pick up on the back end. So,
Hmm.
being okay with equality looking differently at different points in time, and even still it just may not be.
I am not a mother, but I feel like one of the things that I often consider is I think loads just nat naturally sometimes fall more on the mother because
Mm,
of the role that they play with getting the child into the world. Like there's already a relationship there between the mother's
hmm.
body and the child's body if you've gone through getting your child in a traditional and yeah, traditional or biological way. And so
Yeah,
I
I've
just
heard that
think,
from older women where like you think that you, as much as you want that equality to be there, the child may not allow it.
yeah. And
They
so
want mom.
because a lot of times mom is the preferred parent, and so that is
Hmm.
something that I think she should be thinking about, like,
Hmm.
is it ever going to be even in parenting? No, because you have a 9 month head start, 9 to 10 month head start on doing this. It's never an even, in my opinion. Now, moms, don't come from you. If you disagree, just say what your disagreement is. You don't have to drag me because, as I've stated, I am not a mother. This is just from what I've seen around
Hmm.
me and heard from people around
Hmm. Oh
me. So
yeah,
yeah, it
I'm
just.
a mom, and every situation is definitely different,
Mhm.
but I could agree with that statement, and that you may have the most willing of partners, but you as the adult may not be in as much of control of what that equity would look like for the
Mhm.
first few years. So,
Yeah. So my advice, Marissa, let every ball drop right now. And you'll have to make up for it in the future, maybe when y'all have kids anyway. So, okay.
Hmm.
Is there
Yeah.
anything else that you want to say about the dresses? I mean, all of their dresses looked cute. I was impressed with
Yeah.
Marissa's
The dresses are
mom.
okay. I mean,
Okay,
Ashley looks stunning no matter what she has on, no
but I
makeup. Like
liked her
she's just a
first dress more
beautiful
than the
woman.
second one. Did you like her first dress
Yeah.
more than the second? I did. I was like, I thought
Yeah.
it was.
I just I don't like that lacy material. I'm not the biggest fan
Mm,
of lace in
hmm.
like the flower design or
Interesting.
that mesh material. Like it has to be done a certain way.
Okay.
So I'm not maybe the I might be biased.
Okay.
But yeah, they
Um,
were okay.
I did also think like Taylor's mom was right. I think the second dress suited her much better. So I wasn't
Hmm.
mad at Fong for being like, it's a nice dress, but no.
Yeah.
Uh,
But yeah, I don't the tuck shopping was it was what it
yeah.
was.
Okay,
Yeah.
predictions. Who do you think is going to get married and who's not going to get married? Because we ended the episode on another conversation with Marissa and Ramses where I was like, what happened?
Oh yeah.
Like, I don't
So
understand.
okay, so we're only down to Marissa and Rams, right?
Ashley and
Ashley
Tyler.
and Tyler and Taylor and Garrett. So I'll start with Taylor and Garrett. I think it's going to be a yes for both of
Hmm.
them.
I do too.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it'll be a yes. Now the whole if it's going to work after with the move, we'll see.
Hmm.
Ashley and Tyler, I think it's going to be a yes.
Yeah, she keeps, they both were like, we're getting married.
Hmm. Marissa and Rams, I could see Rams saying no. Yeah, I see him
Hmm.
saying yes. I could see him saying no.
I could also see him saying no. But I could see both of them saying yes because the way that they were talking about each other when he went shopping for his suit and she went shopping, like it seems like they were very confident about each other. Like even though they have these hurdles, it seems like they really have been able to come to an understanding behind the scenes and work things out. So I would not be surprised either way if they both said yes or if he says no and she says yes. I did think it was sweet. The mom mentioned how Marissa called him and she was like, "Oh, if you can't do this, like it's fine." But he dropped everything to handle whatever it was. I think that's the image of Ramses that Marissa has. Probably because
Yeah.
some of it is just who he is, but
Hmm.
it's not all of
Yeah, I
him.
don't know. With him, I could see him saying yes, but I
Yeah,
also can see him having some big questions
still.
just about more serious things. And because this would be his second marriage, I think
Yeah.
it's a kind of an even bigger deal that he kind of get this done right.
I think it's starting to hit him. Oh, I better
Hmm.
get this right.
And the things that they're having because she's shifted a bit in such a short period of time, I
Mhm.
think I could see him being open to them dating and trying to make it work in a traditional sense versus
Yeah.
stamping a marriage on it and having the pressure of that on top of them.
Yeah. I would
Because
support
they're
that.
pretty big issues. And I would
Yeah.
be fine with that too. Maybe let her get through law school and,
Mhm.
figure that stuff out. And yeah.
Yeah, and whatever it is, I'm sure they would decide it before the altar. They don't seem like the type who would surprise the other person at the altar.
Whew.
All right,
Cutthroat.
those are our thoughts. Let us
Yeah.
know in the comments what your thoughts are. But yeah, we'll see y'all after the wedding episodes.
Yeah.
And we are also reviewing Married at First Sight. So if you watch that show, join us on Wednesdays, I think, for our reviews.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because the show comes on Tuesday now. All right, we'll
Yeah.
talk to you guys later. Bye.
Bye.